Across every civilization in human history, stories of impossible creatures keep appearing. Beasts of fire in the skies, monsters beneath the oceans, and beings so mysterious that some people still claim they exist today. But what if some of these legends weren't just stories? In this video, we're counting down 7 mythical creatures that appear across cultures all over the world, starting with one of the most powerful creatures ever imagined: dragons. Few creatures appear in as many cultures as dragons. From medieval Europe to ancient China, civilizations separated by thousands of miles all described massive, serpent-like beasts capable of flight, destruction, and incredible intelligence. In European legends, dragons were often terrifying monsters. Knights were said to battle them in order to protect villages or recover stolen treasure. The famous story of St. George slaying the dragon became one of the most well-known dragon legends in history. But in Asia, dragons were very different. Chinese dragons were not evil at all. They were powerful celestial beings, connected to rain, rivers, and the balance of nature. Even today, dragons symbolize power, wisdom, and protection in Chinese culture. So where did these stories come from? Some scientists believe ancient people may have discovered dinosaur fossils, and without understanding what they were, imagined giant living reptiles. Others point out that large reptiles like Komodo dragons showed that enormous lizard-like creatures do exist. But the strangest part? Almost every culture independently imagined the same creature: a giant serpent with claws, wings, and fire. And that raises a haunting question. Were dragons simply a myth? Or did humans once share the world with something far more terrifying? But if dragons ruled the skies, our next creature ruled something far darker: the depths of the ocean, the Kraken. For centuries, sailors feared something lurking beneath the cold waters of the North Atlantic, a creature so enormous it could drag entire ships into the sea. They called it the Kraken. First described in Scandinavian folklore, the Kraken was said to be a gigantic sea monster living near the coasts of Norway and Greenland. Sailors claimed that when it surfaced, the ocean itself would begin to swirl. Waves would rise, and enormous tentacles would wrap around ships, pulling them under the water. For a long time, people dismissed these stories as exaggerations from frightened sailors. But then something strange happened. Scientists discovered the giant squid. These creatures can grow up to 13 meters long, with massive tentacles and enormous eyes adapted to the darkness of the deep ocean. For centuries, they were considered mythical, until real specimens were finally discovered. And even today, scientists know surprisingly little about them, because the deepest parts of the ocean remain largely unexplored, which means the terrifying question still remains. If giant squids exist, what else might be hiding in the deep? But not all mythical creatures were monsters. Some were symbols of purity, magic, and mystery, like the next creature on our list, the unicorn. The unicorn is often imagined as a beautiful white horse with a single spiraling horn, but its legend goes back far deeper than medieval fairy tales. Some of the earliest references to unicorn-like creatures appear in ancient texts from India and Mesopotamia thousands of years ago. Even the Bible contains references to a mysterious horned creature called the Rayem, which some historians believe may have inspired later unicorn legends. During the Middle Ages, unicorns were believed to possess magical powers. Their horns were said to purify poisoned water and heal deadly illnesses. Kings and nobles even paid enormous sums for what they believed were unicorn horns. But here's the twist. Many of those unicorn horns were actually the tusks of a real animal. The narwhal, a whale with a long spiral tusk that can grow over 3 meters long. When medieval traders brought these tusks to Europe, people were convinced they had proof unicorns existed. But there's another theory. Some researchers believe ancient people may have encountered a now extinct animal called Elasmotherium, a massive prehistoric rhinoceros with a single giant horn. And if early humans saw one of these creatures, the legend of the unicorn might not be fantasy at all. But our next creature is far less graceful, and far more terrifying: the Cyclops. Deep in the myths of ancient Greece lived a race of terrifying giants known as Cyclops, massive beings with incredible strength, and a single eye in the center of their forehead. The most famous Cyclops appears in Homer's Odyssey, a giant named Polyphemus who traps Odysseus and his men inside a cave and begins eating them one by one. Eventually, Odysseus escapes by blinding the monster's single eye, But where did the idea of one-eyed giants come from? Some historians believe the myth may have been inspired by ancient elephant skulls. When people in the ancient world discovered these skulls, they saw a massive hole in the center. To modern scientists, that hole is the nasal cavity where the elephant's trunk connects. But to ancient humans, it may have looked exactly like the socket of a giant single eye. And that misunderstanding could have created one of mythology's most terrifying creatures. But the next beast combines two of the most powerful animals in nature: the king of the sky and the king of the land, the griffin. Half eagle, half lion, the griffin is one of the most majestic creatures in ancient mythology. With the wings and beak of a giant eagle and the body of a powerful lion, griffins were said to guard vast treasures hidden in remote mountains. Stories of griffins appear in Persian, Greek, and Central Asian mythology. Merchants traveling along the ancient Silk Road told tales of enormous winged beasts protecting nests filled with gold. For centuries, historians wondered where these stories came from. Then a fascinating theory appeared. In the deserts of Mongolia, scientists discovered fossils of a dinosaur called Protoceratops. Its skeleton has a beak, 4 legs, and a body shape that strangely resembles descriptions of griffins. Some researchers believe ancient traders may have discovered these fossils sticking out of the desert sand. Without understanding dinosaurs, they imagined a living creature guarding the gold-rich mountains nearby. And just like that, a dinosaur fossil may have become a mythical beast. But our next creature might still be out there, watching from the frozen mountains. The Yeti, high in the Himalayas. Locals tell stories of a mysterious creature known as the Yeti, also called the abominable snowman. For generations, Sherpa communities in Nepal have described a massive ape-like creature roaming the remote snowy mountains. Footprints in the snow, strange howls echoing through valleys, and rare glimpses of a towering figure disappearing into the mist. In 1951, British mountaineer Eric Shipton photographed enormous footprints on Mount Everest. The images shocked the world and fueled the mystery of the Yeti. Scientists later tested hair samples believed to belong to the creature. Some were linked to known animals like bears, but others produced strange results that scientists still debate today. Skeptics say the Yeti is simply a misidentified bear. But believers point out something interesting. The Himalayas are vast, dangerous, and incredibly difficult to explore. Large areas remain almost completely untouched by humans, which means if a large unknown primate did exist there, it could remain hidden for centuries. But our final creature doesn't live in mountains or forests. It lives somewhere far more mysterious. The ocean. Mermaids. For thousands of years, sailors across the world told stories of mysterious beings in the sea, creatures with the upper body of a human and the tail of a fish. They called them mermaids. Legends of mermaids appear in cultures across Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. Some stories describe them as beautiful and enchanting. Others warned sailors that they could lure ships to destruction. In 1493, even Christopher Columbus wrote in his journal that he had seen mermaid-like creatures in the ocean, but he also noted that they were not as beautiful as expected. Today, scientists believe many of these sightings may have been manatees or dugongs, marine mammals that, from a distance, can resemble human shapes in the water. But here's what keeps the mystery alive. Over 80% of the ocean remains unexplored, which means the possibility of unknown marine species still exists. And until we fully explore the deep, the legend of mermaids will continue to swim somewhere between myth and reality. These were 7 mythical creatures that have fascinated humanity for thousands of years. But this is only the beginning, because in part 2, we'll uncover 7 even more mysterious creatures, including beings that some people claim still walk among us today. So if you want to see those legends, make sure to subscribe to our channel and join the hunt for the unknown.